This was kind of a risky buy. So this is a 2013 Polaris RZR XP900. So the seller stated that he was riding this thing down the road and all of a sudden it shut down and it wouldn't start back up. He doesn't know what's wrong with it. Sit in the seat. Maybe it's just something really stupid. All here. Nope, not that way. Not that way. She's pretty tight. Tons of carbon. There. Alright. Cams look pretty good. Cam lobes look good. Well, doesn't look that chunky. Alright, taking a look at the oil here. Not seeing anything. That was dry. There we go. What in the world? The whole cylinder wall is broken off. Oh, there's one piece of the cylinder. We're back with the 2013 Polaris RZR900 EFI plus power steering. Picked this thing up for $3,000 last video. Seller stated that he was riding down the road with it and all of a sudden it shut down, wouldn't start back up. We got back home, found out that the engine was locked up, took the clutch cover off and tried to turn the clutch here. And the primary is just completely stuck. So we thought maybe it was a starter. We tested the starter. Took the starter off, starter was working perfect. So we found out it was not the starter. So we tore a little deeper, took off the top end and found a couple interesting problems. So the cylinder was completely wrecked. This is the left side cylinder, just completely demolished. And you can see the pieces that came off of it right here. Just big chunks. One of these big chunks got lodged between the piston here and the engine case and locked up that piston, locked up that crank, so now it does not rotate at all. The little chunk is right down in here. And because it did that, it actually bent the rod. The rod is like an S shape in there. So that's not gonna move until we get this engine split and apart. Because there's no way to get that chunk out without removing this engine. So today's plan is to get this engine completely out of the machine, disassemble it. We want to find out what went wrong with this engine. I'm thinking oil pump, but I'm not 100% sure. So we tested the ring gaps last video. Those were really good. Rings were installed correctly. There were new pistons in it, Vertex pistons. We tested the thermostat. That was opening correctly, allowing coolant to flow through, so it wasn't that. And then the water pump we found was actually attached to the engine, rotating just fine. So it wasn't the water pump either that went. So that kind of only leaves the oil pump, but we're gonna find out what happened today. We got this engine hoist from Harbor Freight, 1 ton. Obviously not sponsored. We're gonna see if this thing works today, getting the engine out of the UTV. So, honest review. Alright, so here's the hoist. Again, not sponsored. I don't really do sponsored videos because if somebody sends me a product, you have to say the product's good because you're getting paid from the company to send you the product. So you can't really say, oh, it's a bad product the company wouldn't be very happy. So I don't like doing sponsorships just because I like to be honest, and I only use products that I want to use. So I bought this thing. It was like $275, not a whole lot. I figured it was worth the investment. This is actually foldable, so it's pretty nice for storage. These legs come up, both these legs, and then this rod extends in, so it can fit up against the wall and not take up a lot of room. This is rated for 1 ton, so 2,000 pounds. And then over here on the extension arm, you can put the arm in depending on what weight you're trying to lift here. Then obviously it's got the handle for the jack here. You just pump it, goes up, nothing too special. But just assembling this thing, it felt pretty good quality. All the bolts are huge. Metal is really thick. So we'll see if it does the job today. I'll give you my honest review of what I think. But so far it feels pretty sturdy. I think it's gonna do a good job. This thing had really good reviews, so I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, I don't know why I didn't buy one earlier. Save my back. But at least we have one now and can use that. So I think what we're gonna do next is try to get this secondary clutch off of here. We'll leave the primary on because the shock is in the way of getting that off. I'm hoping we can get the whole engine out and then disassemble everything. But transmission, we want to leave in because the CV axles are connected to it. The drive shaft is connected to it, and everything else is connected to it. All right, get these wires out of the way here. Snip those off. This whole wiring harness to go off to the side here. And just kind of let that sit over here, out of the way. Disconnect that one. Alright, that came off. Now we should be able to pull that right off of the shaft here. There we go. It came off pretty easily. That's what it looks like from behind. There's the front, and there's that bolt, pretty short. Let's see if we can get these bolts out. Now there's bolts on the other side holding the engine in place. So we're hoping we can bend that out and get those bolts out. If not, we're gonna have to take off the shock and try to get this clutch off. All right, so the engine is connected to the transmission by the bolt here. There's another one down there. Here, here, there, and there. So 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side, 2 on this side. And then the engine is connected to the frame. Right there with 2 bolts there, 2 right there. All right, looks like shock needs to come off. I think that's the best option. So we're gonna jack up the frame here. We'll try to take this shock off. I don't think this is gonna drop. Hopefully not. Looks like it might. Trying to get out of the way here. In case it does. Jack this up a little bit more. There we go. Will that not swing up? I think they'll swing out of the way enough to where we can get that clutch off. Sturdy here. There's the bolt for the clutch. Hopefully we have the correct clutch puller. All right, here's a Polaris clutch puller. I don't know if that's gonna work or not. We'll see here. Oh yeah, sweet. That was not hard to take off. Usually those fight ya. You got lucky there. Really lucky we had the correct clutch puller too. Oh. Alright. That's a lot better. Now we have access to the transmission bolts holding on the engine. Alright, we've got that bolt, that bolt. Who thinks the impact's gonna take those out? I do not think so. New. More. Yeah, we would have never been able to get those out without taking that clutch off, so I'm happy we did that. Those were in there really tight. All right, we're moving on to the right side. That looks like that's gonna be tricky too for that one. Alright, that one's coming. Get that one out. Engine actually just dropped. We don't have to get these out. That's just the mount. So luckily, we didn't have to get those side pieces off. That was just the mount holding that on, so we are good to go there. All we have to do now is get the bolts off the frame here. All right, finally got these 4 bolts holding the engine onto the frame. There's no way this bottom end was ever rebuilt. These bolts were so torqued in. Those were so hard to get out. It took me probably an hour to get those out. And it was really a tight fit. Couldn't get the breaker bar in there. So that was really exciting, but now the engine is free, so we can hopefully lift that right out and start tearing into it. disconnected from there. Alright, that hoist made it so much easier. Wow. Got the rack here. So we can lift her up. Alright, so what I did was just put 2 straps around the engine. That one looks like that's about to break, that strap. That would be bad. But here's the impeller. You can see that's attached there. So that wasn't spinning. Yeah, everything looks pretty good. I don't see any damage to the engine case. Oh man, that sucks. Look at the rod is right through the case here. Oh, that sucks. Look at that. That's the rod. Oh. So a new bottom end case is $1,000. Oh. That's killer. So now this project just turned into a $3,000 fix. Oh, unless we can get that welded up. But that rod's right through the block. Ha, that sucks. But yeah, that's what it looks like. So just 8 bolts holding that engine in, and then you can take that right out. So not too bad. With the hoist, that works so much easier. Saved my back. I don't think I ever would have been able to just reach down in there and grab that out. So definitely worth the investment there. Let's move this over to here. Engine is officially out on the bench. Let's start turning into it. All right, we're done with the hoist. I'll show you guys how these legs fold up. Pin comes out. So easy to store, doesn't take much room. Not too bad, and then this folds in. Or you could just take that out, put it in the side. But yeah, it does not take up a lot of room. So if you guys are fighting with engines like I do, I'd go pick one of these up. 275 bucks. Saves your back. Definitely worth it. I cannot believe the rod went right through the block right there. That's crazy. So yeah, right there. Clearly the rod right through the block. That is really bad. Oh man. So we're going to strip the whole thing down and see what the heck failed. You can see all the Loctite on there. Reverse. Alright, so I used a 3-pound hammer, pounded on it with a socket, pounded the socket, and did like maybe 5 big hits, and that flywheel popped off of there. So luckily that came off. That was on there pretty good. Now we can move on. That puller worked out pretty good. Alright, usually the clutch and the flywheel are the hardest things to take off, so that's done. Sailing from here. Get the woodruff key out. Woodruff key was a little bit beat up. Pull that through, just like that. Guide looks like it's in good shape. Now the cam chain, I'm really not sure how you get that off, because you drop it down, and you can't take that off. Huh. That is very strange. You must drop the crank in with the cam chain on when you install the second case half here. That's the only thing I can think. So you cannot replace the cam chain without tearing apart the whole engine. That is crazy. Just look at that. There's no way to get that out unless you take off this part of the engine. What a dumb design. Who designed that? Make this removable so that you can just take the cam chain off. Oh man. What a pain. Alright, get the other guide off of here. Pulls out. That guide looks perfect too. Let's see. So that was reverse thread for the impeller. I think this whole thing can come off actually. That goes into the shaft in there, and that spins that. Right up here is where oil goes in. It's not budging. Holy man. Just gonna strip out of there. Oh, that's stripped out. Done for now. If we can't get the case apart with that on, take that off, but for now, we're gonna have to drill these out quick. Those around there tight. All right, this whole bottom mounting system can come right off. Around there. All right, now there's a bunch of bolts around the case holding that on. So let's get those off. Looks pretty good. Not much oil on here. All right, we can take this oil pan off, and the oil pump should be underneath here. I'm pretty sure that's what failed. We're gonna find out. Alright, that should do the trick. Let's see. Oh man. Holy cow. Look at all those pieces in there. What is that thing from? Oh, that's like the rod bearing. Oh. Oh man. What's that from? This is one of the bolts. It's broken in half. Jeez. That's crazy. I don't know where that bolt came from. We'll have to find out where that came from. Jeez. Alright, right here is the oil pump. We can try to get that off and see if that was working. Couple chunks in there. Not too crazy though. Alright, there's some dowel pins that we can get out. There we go. Now wiggle this one back and forth, push it back down. There. Maybe we'll just pull it out. The pliers. Get the oil pump off. Ooh, something fell in there. Ooh, what's that? Huh. Big chunks were in there. So I wonder if something broke before the oil pump. I mean, it feels smooth in there. don't know, we'll have to see. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bolts holding this case together. Alright, let's see if we can split these cases now. That is crazy. Wow. So that's just completely off of there. Look at that. That got twisted in between the crank and the case. This is supposed to sit right here. How does that even happen? See, this one's on there still. Wow. Look how bent that is too. Here's the counterbalance. Oh, that got broken pretty bad too. Look at that. Big chip out of there. Gears are fine. And then looking in here, there's a rod bearings, that big chunk from the actual crank rod. And there's the hole. That's pretty bad. It goes through the case right there and down below right there. That's really bad. I don't think that's salvageable. It's blocking the port in there. I don't know, we'll see. But look how big that hole is. Wow. Bunch of metal shavings in here. Yeah, it's not looking good. Wow, that is a lot of damage. So we're gonna try to pull the crank out this way. It's not connected to here, so that's good. So it should come right out, and then we can pull the piston and rod up through here. That's absolutely crazy though. How that just stuck there like that. And it blew that part out right to there. So unfortunately, I think the case is done for. All right, let's take a look at the crank here. So you can see pretty damaged here and here. I'm guessing this whole shaft is bent because of the force this rod took right here. Because I mean, to bend that and move that outside of it like that is just an extreme amount of force. And if you guys look, this was Hot Rod's crank, so it was rebuilt at one point, which I did not think it was. But the piston's chewed up. The clips in the piston are still in place, so that wasn't what failed. the rod bearings, I think this is one of them. Nope. I don't even know where the rod bearings are. I think they're in here. Are just gone. Completely chewed up. Horrible. And you can see how bent that rod is. I mean, that would take just an extreme amount of force. And then here's the bolt that was broken. So that connects the rod to the crankshaft. And those bolts just broke right off, holding that in place. Clean off. So, yeah, that's not good. The oil pump chain felt good. No kinks in that or anything. So that wasn't the problem. But I just cannot believe the damage on this thing. He must have been going fast for this to happen. You can see there's a little damage right there to that little port where oil squirts in. This rod bearing feels great. So I know oil was getting to this rod bearing for sure. Otherwise that would have been chewed up too. So I don't get it. I don't get why this one failed and this one did not. If it was lack of oil, you'd think this one would be failed too, you know? But that one's nice and tight, everything's perfect. And you can see some severe rubbing happening right here. And on the other side of it, right there. These bearings feel fine. These are all the main bearings holding that crankshaft in place. And those are all fine. But the rubbing right there is not fine. So I wonder if that was getting hot. And then you can see some damage to the case right there as well. All the oil ports look good. You can see that's clear, that's clear, that's clear. All these are clear. And they look like they were installed correctly. So the bearings didn't fail. The oil pan. Take a look at all the chunks. So I believe that was the rod bearing. That's part of the other half of the rod, connecting it to the crank. Big piece of cylinder. There's the other bolt. And then there's another bearing there. So it almost looks like the rod bearing failed first. And there's a piece of something. Looks like aluminum. But bunch of metal in there. I believe this is the part that was stuck between the piston and the case half, causing it to be locked up. And these were all in the bottom end. Alright, so the rubbing we saw on the side of the case was right in here. And you can see how tight that clearance is. There's literally zero gap between there and there. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be hitting that case or not, but it definitely is. Look at that rubbing right there. So I don't know if that got hot or what. Nope. It goes all the way through. You can see the straw going all the way through. That is clear. And that gets oil from the case here. And there and there. Pull through those and see if those are good. Yep, those are all clear. Passageways look like they're clear. All right, looking at the cylinder one more time, I thought maybe the cylinder failed. Maybe it was the original cylinder, it was old, maybe there was a crack in it. But it turns out this is a Cylinders Works cylinder, so that was replaced, I'm guessing at the time this was rebuilt, which was only 1,000 miles ago. So I'm thinking the cylinder probably didn't fail first. I'm thinking the crank failed first. Because why would the cylinder fail if it was brand new, you know? Doesn't make any sense. So I'm guessing the rod got bent, and then as the piston went up, it cracked the skirt. All right, here's the oil pump. So listening to it, sounds pretty smooth. No crunchiness in there. So we can pour a little oil down there and see if any pumps out. Pumping out. See that? Yep, it's pumping good. So it's pumping oil. All right, so on this pump, there's an oil relief valve in here. There's a spring and like a dowel, and it looks like that's working. It's not stuck, open or closed, it looks like. So that looks good. You can see it springs in. So I don't think that's a problem. We're just gonna take this apart just to see what's inside. No dings, no scratches. That looks really good. Looks perfect there. Inside looks perfect. We already checked that valve. Push on that, that was perfect as well. So yeah, I don't think it was the pump here. That all checks out. All right, so oil pump checked out, water pump checked out, thermostat checked out. So I don't think there was overheating anywhere on the machine. The guy said there was plenty of oil in it. He said he never ran it low on oil or coolant, and he was very adamant about that. And he looked like he took really good care of his stuff, so I don't think he ever let that happen. The thing that was concerning is that the filter had 0 oil in it when we took that off. So I don't know if it wasn't pumping, so that's just kind of weird to me that there's no oil in the filter. But maybe that's common on these. Maybe it drains back into the engine if you let it sit for a long time. Everything else on the top end was fine. So I think it was getting oiled to the top end at least. Everything looks perfect there. Cams are perfect. Nothing got hot in the top end. So I know oil was pumping to the top end, and that means it was probably pumping to the bottom end. So I'm just kind of stumped on this one. I don't know what caused the problem. All the passageways for the oil to get to are clear. All the bearings were fine. Right, another common issue on these is that the oiler for the piston, these little guys right there, those can get clogged, but I plugged off the hole here, right here, flew through the hole here with compressed air, and it shot air out through here and here. So those were probably most likely oiling the piston. Both those passageways were clear, so I don't think that was the issue either. Unfortunately, the mystery still remains as to why this engine failed on one side. So on the left-hand side, the piston, the cylinder, and the rod all failed. And it does not make any sense. We checked through every passageway on the engine. Everything was clear, getting oil. Oil pump looked good. The pressure relief valve looked good. The water pump looked good. All the chains look good that run the water pump. So there's no issues there. The top end looks spotless. Not a single scratch on the top end. No wear at all in the cams. So I know the top end was getting oiled. The cylinder looked to be new. Cylinder works cylinder. So that shouldn't have failed. The pistons were brand new, Vertex pistons. The rods were hot rods. So everything was new in the bottom end, and it still failed. So I'm not really sure what the heck happened. Let me know in the comments what you guys think it was. Like I said before, we checked everything and everything checked out. So I'm thinking and leaning towards possibly the cylinder having a defect in it on the one cylinder here. And maybe that cracked, fell off, damaged the rod and the bearings. But that's really all that could have happened. Unless the piston was reassembled wrong somehow, and the clearance was off, and that caused the damage. Not sure. Not sure. But leave your opinions down below. What do you guys think happened to this thing? I am stumped on it. Alright, now we have to decide what to do with this machine here. So unfortunately, the engine cases are damaged. Initially, I thought the engine cases were going to be fine, which would leave us at a cost of $2,000 to rebuild this thing. Engine cases are like $1,000 for this machine. So now that bumped us up to over $3,000 to fix this machine. And we have $3,000 into it. So we'll have a grand total of over $6,000 into this machine by the time it's fixed. So is that worth it? I don't know. Do we part it out? Or do we rebuild it with the risk of having the same thing happen after 1,000 miles? It's a tough choice. You could probably part this thing out for right around $3,000, but that's a lot of work, a lot of time. Or you could rebuild it and maybe break even. Yeah, so it's a bummer, but you live, you learn, and that's the risk you take buying these things. And sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. And this one was a big loss. So hope you guys enjoyed anyway. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next video. And until next time, we are out.